Everyone, Andy Cantu here from Lux Travel Hacks. Today, I'm going to show you what to do with 300,000 or more AMEX points. I made a video just like this for Chase points. This time we're going to do AMEX. A lot of things are similar. We're going to do Europe for this trip, so I can show you kind of what you can get for it. And the main difference will be in the hotels. Chase and AMEX have access to different hotel partners. So even though there is a lot of overlap on the flight side, for hotels, there is basically no overlap that matters to us. So there's different hotels you can book with different currencies. So that's why it's important to diversify and have both Chase and AMEX long term. But for now, let's just say you're working with 300K or more AMEX points. I'm going to show you today how to get flights and hotels for them to and from Europe. This is business class everything, so that's what I'm talking about here. You can expect to get a business class round trip for about maybe 100 to 140K per person. So this is 2, maybe 3 business class round trips to and from Europe. And various other parts in the world have different pricing, but a lot of times that's kind of an okay overall budget. So we'll start here. This is seats.aero. If you've never seen this before, this is basically a tool to see points flight availability across all the different programs and different airlines and alliances and things like that. So it might be a little overwhelming at first. We're going to go through it. When you're using this, you can use it in various ways. You can see here, Explore has all kinds of different airline programs you can use. We're just going to use the search feature. So we're going to go here and we're going to put USA. If you click here, multi-city codes, you can see that there are a lot of pre-built selections of airports. USA is a good one because it's all the big hubs. For our example, it's great. And we're going to use Europe also, which is all the big European hubs. You can see there's a ton, which is part of the reason it's very easy to get to Europe when compared to maybe, Asia, Australia, or whatever that has less hubs to work with. So anyway, we'll just start simple. We'll do USA to Europe. In the last video, I did Italy specifically, but this time let's just kind of see. I think today we will go through and try to find the 100K round trips so you can really get max value. Those are mostly with Air France, so we will probably be finding flights to and from Europe that stop or that end in Paris or Amsterdam, which is Air France and KLM's 2 hubs, and they are together known as a program called Flying Blue. That's their points program. So since we're just playing with whatever dates, you can do plus or minus a lot, like all year basically, but we're just going to do like anytime in the next couple months or something. We'll start maybe like mid-April. That way it gives us all of March through May, basically. 2 seats, business class, and let's start. Usually it's pretty quick to load, so. Okay, so since we're looking specifically for the 50K ones, let's sort this. Another thing you can do, by the way, while we're on the topic of sorting, is you can sort it by 1. You can see here we're sorted by lowest business class, and if you hold Shift and then click another column, it'll sort by that one too. So you'll get it in order of date and in order of price. In this case, we're going to find a lot of Virgin availability to Europe at 47.5K, which is good, except if you hover over it, you'll see the tax, 1,000 per person. So not good, right? So maybe we actually will just exclude Virgin for this one. So we can reset, or we can, I guess we can just click all of them except Virgin. I don't know why there's not an easy way to do that for now. Okay, so here are these 50K ones we were talking about. Chicago to Paris, DC to Paris, Houston to Amsterdam, lots to pick from. We can just say we're doing maybe a Paris trip this time. That's their hub, so it'll be pretty easy to get to. And I'll also show you that sometimes they'll have the same exact price or barely a little bit more if you include another city connecting through Paris. So I'll show you how to do that on their site directly. Here we're just looking for, are there any big long hauls available at this point range, right? So in fact, maybe we should just look at Flying Blue, since really that's what we're aiming for today. And even though you could see before I unchecked all of them that there were a ton of other programs available, so lots of availability to Europe. So basically, we got quite a lot depending on from where. We'll just maybe pick one, and I'll probably just do one way in the interest of time, outbound, and then you could do the same search, obviously coming back, and same concept. So maybe we'll do, there seems to be quite a few Chicago, quite a few New York, not so much Houston, DC, and Boston. So Chicago or New York, there's some San Francisco at a little bit higher, which is still a really good rate. So Chicago's a good one because if you're West Coast or East Coast, you can make it work, spend a few days in Chicago, and then continue on, or just use it as a layover city that day. So let's just pick this one, April 2nd. It's like a reasonable time away and everything. Let's go to it. And I believe there were, let's see, April 2nd, 2 seats available. But there are some that have 4, 5, 6, 9. So it just depends what you need, but we'll search for 2 for now. All right, logged in. Okay, so that was Chicago to Paris, April 2nd. We'll do 1 for pricing purposes because they'll mix the pricing and it's a little confusing sometimes. So we'll just see what they're quoting and then you can always add the other person and see the total amount. So it's showing 82, not the 50. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go back and we're going to remove the date. And that's how you can get like a whole calendar worth. So let's see, which are the 50 days? Looks like that April 50 was gone. And to clarify, the 50s are like really, really good deals. So you're going to see less of them than you would of like 80s, 70s, which are still good deals, right? 60 to 70 each way would still be good. That still falls under our 120, 140 reasonable rate. But we're trying to go for like a really, really, really good deal of 100K. So let's see if, and when it is in March. 29th. Oh, it's a few days before. That works too. In our fake scenario of first week of April, I don't know. So here it is, 50K miles, 200 bucks in tax. I usually would prefer taxes to be less, like 50, 100. In this case, it's such a good deal that it could be worth it to pay that tax. And I mean, compared to the business class like flight itself, obviously that's nothing. And it says there's 4 seats on this date, so it's a little bit better. So basically, that's what I would take. And then we can look really quick and find a return. So you guys can just see. This one, we don't necessarily have to restrict ourselves to the 50K, but let's give it a shot. Okay, so here we go. I should have changed the dates probably to a little bit later. But whatever, this is fine. So we were arriving like the 30th or something. So you want to say a week and a half, whatever. We can actually just, since we are leaving from Chicago, we can put ORD here and filter again by the date. This 11th coming back or 12th coming back would work, or 10th. That gives us a good amount of time. So actually that lines up really well. And again, we're restricting ourselves just to flying blue in this case, which you wouldn't have to do in a real life scenario, but this should give you an idea of like how to look and search for this stuff. So let's change this just to confirm it's there. Paris to Chicago. And then I'm going to show you how to include other cities if you're continuing in a second for at least one of the directions, and then we'll move on to hotels. So March 10th, 11th, and 12th it said, so let's see. So there it is. Higher tax than the other way. So this is a scenario where you might say, hey, well, I'm going to look for a different alliance or airline or whatever that's not specific to Air France because I don't want to pay $400 of tax. Or you might say, no, whatever, I maybe don't have a lot of points, so I need to keep it like under budget because I only have 300K or only have 250 or whatever. So you can kind of make that choice and take, go back to Seats Arrow and reset all the programs and say, okay, I'm going to look for something that's like, maybe 60s or 70s that doesn't have a high tax. There are plenty, like, we'll avoid London if you don't want high tax. But from Barcelona or from, just really depends like where you're coming from. Rome, there was one there. So other options, right? But if you're okay with the tax, then this is a great, great, great deal. 100K round trip, so you can get either 2 business class tickets, and we'll do some hotel looking right now, or possibly 3 and just pay cash for hotels. So anyway, that's what that looks like. Let's see if we can find any quotes continuing on, like maybe we can do Milan, but you can really do like any other European city. And the way to do this is you want to make sure that you're aligning it with the long haul date. So if the long haul was March 29th, then we're going to look on March 29th and see if it will connect it the whole way for the same price or not, or maybe for a little bit more. Air France also offers stopovers. If you don't know what those are, that just means you stay in a city for longer than 24 hours. It's like a layover, but longer. And they will sometimes let you have it for the same price. So you basically get the next flight for free. So it can be very useful. You have to call to do it, and they have to quote you and tell you if it's available or not. So it may or may not work out, but just so you guys know it exists. So you can see here the stop in Paris, 138K instead of 50. Doesn't make sense, and none of the dates have it around there. So probably wouldn't work out to Milan. And this is a scenario where even if you were going to Milan or this another city that you couldn't find it for 50 here, you would just pay 50, get to Paris, stay there however long you want, or not at all, and then just pay cash separate flight Paris to wherever, which is probably $100, $150, and you can kind of build your own ticket that way on the dates that you wanted. So way better. And if you didn't know, you might have only searched Chicago to Milan if this was your actual route and decided that there wasn't anything, it's too expensive, points don't work, points suck, whatever, like, or Amex points don't work or whatever. That's not the case. You just have to kind of understand how sometimes long hauls make sense and the short ones do not. So you can just pick the long haul only and build your own ticket after that. Or before that, whatever. Like maybe you're in Cleveland, you search from Cleveland to Milan, it won't work, so you just have to either drive to Chicago or pay your own little flight to Chicago, stay there a couple nights, and then can do the Chicago to Paris flight. Because if you search Cleveland to Paris, for example, you may find nothing. So same idea, it can happen on the origin side or the destination side, so just know that. We can try a couple others here, like, I don't know, Zagreb and Croatia. And again, probably makes more sense to just pay cash, but let's just see if we can find one. If not, then... So cool, here's an example. It said 50, but sometimes it's off by a day, so we'll click the surrounding dates. It says it's there. And if not, we won't waste time on this probably, but yeah, there's no 50 here. Weird. Anyway, whatever. The point is the long haul in business class, comfy and everything. So let's move on to hotels. We're going to use a tool called maxmypoint.com. Oops. Yeah, maxmypoint.com. And when we're dealing with Amex versus Chase, there is a very, very big difference in hotel redemptions. With Chase, you have Hyatt as a partner, which is an excellent value program. With Amex, you have Hilton and Marriott, which are less value but can still find cool stuff. You mainly have to focus on really, really high-end redemptions. Like for Hilton specifically today, maybe we look for like a Waldorf Astoria or a Conrad or some other expensive property that is otherwise too crazy to do on cash, so we can use points for it. So let's talk a little bit about that. We're going to go here and filter by, let's just say Hilton only in Paris. So let's see what we have. Quite a few here. Let's see the Hilton Paris Opera. So something important to talk about here is that Hilton is 1 to 2 from Amex. So in this case, if it's 75K, you have to transfer 37.5K points from Amex into Hilton to create these 75. This would be 35K and so on, right? So right now I'm going to show you a calculation of the value so we can decide if this is worth it or not, but just know whatever you're seeing here, it's half from Amex. So we'll look around here. This is a hotel that may not be worth using points for because its cash rates are low, 260, 330 for a very nice hotel. Like on some nights where it's 500 like this may make sense. I'm sorry, yeah, 500. There are other dates where it's like 1,000, 800, but there's no points available. That's what the blue bar means, that there's points on that date. So the cash rates could or could not make sense. It depends, but it looks like mostly it does not. It's not expensive enough. So let's look at some other ones. Similar cash rates. And similar cash rates. So we can use this as an example. I mean, obviously you're still going to get a free hotel, right? But it's not going to be as good value as we find with maybe Chase/Hyatt. And we can even look at Marriott too, but Marriott usually is not as good as Hilton value-wise. So let's see, let's look at this one. Now Marriott, the problem is, you can see on the surface this seems like good value because it's really expensive, $1,600, $1,300, but Marriott is 1 to 1, not 1 to 2. So although yes, in theory, this is like an okay redemption, very okay, and again, I'll show you the valuation calculator in a second. It's just a lot of points to use regardless. Like the sheer number of points is too many, especially when you're working with a budget of let's just say 300 to 400K or something like that. So maybe we run the calculation with the Hilton Opera. Today's access limit. I guess I don't have Pro with this one, so we're gonna go straight to Hilton. That's just useful to similar to Seats Arrow. You're just trying to get an idea of an availability, and then you would actually do it right here. So Paris, I don't remember what those dates were, so we will leave it dateless so we can find out. Click the use points box, very important. And Marriott has a similar kind of interface. Not Paris, Texas. Right here. I was like, oh, that's less selection than I thought. Okay, so here's Hilton Paris Opera. We had seen it around 70, whatever. So let's see. And it was in late March, early April. So here's an 80. And then in April we had 80, 80, 80, 80, 80. So it depends on the nights we were there, specifically in Paris. Maybe you were in other cities and you came to Paris. So our return flight was like around here. So maybe the last couple nights you're in Paris and then you come home, and the other dates you were somewhere else in Europe. I don't know. So you can stay 2 nights, 3 nights, 4 nights, whatever. Something else to note for Hilton and Marriott, you get a 5th night free when booking points. So if you find 5 nights, you're going to pay obviously less, and it makes the redemption a little bit better because you're going to get the 5th night completely free. So you would pay 80K times 4 instead of times 5 for the 5 nights. And remember, this is half because Amex is 1 to 2. So this is like 40K a night. So we can click one just to confirm it's there. Cash rate's like, that's probably like 370 bucks after fees and whatever else in the euro to dollar. You can even call it 400, it just depends. So $400 rate for 80,000 points, but that becomes 40,000 points inside Amex. So we can use our calculator to determine if this is worth it or not. Like I mentioned before, a lot of times with Amex, the hotels aren't as worth it, and you're better off just using them for flights and saving your chase for hotels, or earning chase for hotels for a future trip you have coming up. But let's run the numbers. And the link to this calculator I'll have down below so you can check it out. So here it is. This is on the Lux Travel Hack site, which is my program. I'll talk about it in a little bit, but basically let's just say points cost 40,000, taxes and fees will be 0. With points bookings at hotels, you pay nothing, usually, like literally $0. In a lot of cases you won't pay parking either if you have that situation or whatever. And then cash value said it was 400. So submit, let's see. You can see we're getting 1 cent per point. If you haven't seen any of my other videos, let me be the one to tell you. 1 cent is about the bottom dollar value we'll get for points. When booking through like a Chase or Amex portal or whatever, they usually give you anywhere from 0.6 to 1.5 cents per point. And that's what we consider in this world the absolute bottom dollar cash out rate. Like, you don't want to ever do it. You can see here I have a guideline, 2 cents or less. Don't waste your points, you're basically losing money. This is 1. So this is not a hotel redemption I would do unless it's a personal preference thing, unless like you're trying to save as much cash as possible because you know you're going to spend a lot on a wedding, an anniversary, food, excursions, activities, whatever, in which case, okay, well, free. Maybe you have some points to spare, or you know you can earn some more, go for it, right? Otherwise, it's nothing compared to the cash value of like the flights, for example. Let's just say 100,000 points for that round trip Paris flight, even with taxes, which were 203.50 or something. Let's just say 550 of tax. And the cash value of that, let's look. Chicago to Paris in business, sometime like late March. And it was non-stop. We have to compare like apples to apples. So 5K round trip, but there are some dates where it would be better. 3,100, 4. Maybe a 4 is like an average. You can click this price graph tool here and it'll kind of show you. And it looks like the average hovers somewhere around like the, I mean, it really depends, but somewhere around like a 4K mark. Maybe more even, 4,500, let's just say to be fair. So 4,500 here. We submit this. We can see that it's 4 cents a point. Based on my guidelines, that's a good to great redemption. That is almost to the 5 cents, which would be an amazing redemption. So much, much better than a hotel equivalent that we're seeing, 1 cent. You're talking about 4 times more value, right? So in this situation, probably not worth using points for that specific Hilton. You can, of course, play with Max My Point and find a Hilton or a Marriott that maybe is expensive and makes sense. But a lot of times it'll be better to focus on the flights when you're dealing with Amex points. So yeah, and that's basically all I had for you guys. I wanted to just show you like how I would look for a trip to Europe with these Amex points, kind of the budget, which is about 100 to 140K per person. And more importantly, how to determine if it's even worth it, right? And using this tool, which is new, by the way, we have an easy way to determine that. So hope that helps. If you want to learn more about this kind of stuff in a lot more detail, a very comprehensive kind of A to Z way, I have a program called Lux Travel Hacks. This is the site for it, right? And we go over all that in detail, showing you how to earn points, how to use them, how to maximize them for luxury travel, when it's smart to use them versus not, and other strategies surrounding this whole game, credit, finance, like the whole world. So if you're interested in any of that, you want to see the resources, this link to this calculator, for example, it's below, and you can click the links down there, and I'll see you inside.